Recently, I finished this episode of my comic. I haven't posted an episode of my comic in forever, but that is besides the point, and we do not need to talk about that right now. Right now, I would like to get into the behind the scenes process of how I made this. I made the thing. I want to talk about how I made the thing. All of my comics, they start with a little script or a little sketch, or both. I wrote the script for this one on Valentine's Day, after pretty much this entire event that you see in the comic took place. It's an autobiographic piece. I went out, I had an experience, I came home, I wrote about it. I will write my scripts and my sketches on whatever is at hand. I love drawing and writing and note taking and project management tools and software, and I love arbitrarily hopping around between them all of the time. So in this case, I used Apple Notes. Right now, I am using Apple Notes slightly more than the rest of my excessive quantities of drawing, writing, note-taking, project management apps. Since the comic took place on Valentine's Day, it was my intention to finish it sometime that week so that it would remain topical. I am very prone to having intentions. But I proceeded to actually finish the comic about a month later. Just wait for my April Fool's episode coming out in May. I put my sketch into Clip Studio and arranged it onto an 11 by 17 sheet. I always draw comics on an 11 by 17 sheet, whether it is done digitally or traditionally, because that is how comics are supposed to happen. I had drawn it originally in a scrolling format, and that is also how I will eventually upload it. But when I'm actually drawing, I really prefer it to be on my 11 by 17 sheet. Drawing in pages lets me see the whole comic all at once, and if I ever do a book, I'll already have the layout done. It just feels more natural to me overall than scrolling. Now, for the actual drawings, I used a different technique than I usually do. Normally, I follow your pretty standard workflow of sketch, line art, base colors, shading, finished render, but this time I went for a less traditional take the screenshot in Blender, draw over said screenshot type approach. I think I was trying to see if it would help me finish the page faster. It didn't. Normally a page takes me around 8 hours to complete, and for this piece I maintained that average. I 3D modeled two backgrounds for this piece. I didn't have to, I just wanted to. I like 3D modeling. I did each background in about 20 minutes. It may or may not have been faster to just draw them. I don't know, but I have no regrets because I got to play Blender and I am very comfortable with my art process where I overcomplicate things and don't always work to maximum efficiency. Thank you very much. So I took my Blender screenshots and I arranged them in Clip Studio. This maybe looks a little bit like cheating, I know, but first of all, Clip Studio has 3D model tools built in these days, and I did make all the models, and it didn't even affect my turnaround time. It took me exactly as long to use 3D models as it usually does to just draw the whole thing from scratch. Once I had the 3D models laid out, I realized that they were super disorganized, so I put them into folders based on panel. I usually don't do that in my comics. Usually I have all of my line art on one layer and all of the colors on a different layer. All of my shading sits in like 6 different layers that I have grouped in a folder, and those are all of my layers for the whole piece. But using 3D models makes the whole thing so much messier, and I wound up with a folder for every panel and many layers inside each folders, like character layers and background layers and draw over layers. It was a mess, but I approached it panel by panel. Once I had done drawovers for each panel, I went back to my usual shading technique where I have a group of about 6 different multiply and overlay effects. And after the whole drawing over the 3D models part was out of the way, the rest of the process really was just business as usual. I did my shadows, I did my highlights, I did more drawovers to render out my shadows and my highlights and fix anything that didn't look right, and then I did text bubbles and color corrections and just finish the drawing kind of stuff. And now I have another finished episode of my comic, and I can finally upload it months after Valentine's Day, once I convert it to scrolling format anyway. I've probably done that by the time of uploading this. Maybe I've even made a short about it. I don't know. Eventually, I'd like to animate dubs for the episodes too. I have ideas. I have plans. I do things. I do creative things. Thank you for watching me do creative things. This is the end of the video. You are free to leave now. You have always been free to leave. You are also free to reward me with your typical gestures of social media engagement. Up to you. You know the deal. You know how this works.